What if one of the most powerful queens in history died rotting from the inside out, her stench so unbearable that even her servants fled in horror? This isn't a horror movie plot. It's the true story of Catherine de Medici's final moments. Catherine de Medici, the legendary Queen of France, lived a life of power, intrigue, and bloodshed. But her death was so dark and gruesome that it earned her the chilling nickname, the Queen Who Smelled of Death. In this video, we're going to delve into Catherine's putrid end, uncovering every graphic detail of her demise. Why does this grim tale matter? And why should you keep watching? Because Catherine's fate is a cautionary tale for us all. It shows how even the mighty cannot escape mortality's cruel hand. Understanding her story can change how you see history's power players, reminding us that no amount of wealth or influence can spare someone from a horrific end. So, if you're ready for a dark, suspenseful journey through the past, stick with us. By the end, you'll not only know the morbid secrets of Catherine de Medici's final hours, but also gain a deeper appreciation of how fragile life and legacy can be. Let's dive in. Catherine de Medici wasn't always the terrifying figure of legend. She began as an orphaned Italian noblewoman who married into the French royal family. Through cunning and determination, she rose to become the Queen of France, and later, the all-powerful Queen Mother. Catherine ruled from behind the throne, pulling the strings of 3 kings, her sons, and navigating France through turbulent wars of religion. She was brilliant and ruthless, a patron of the arts on one hand, and a suspected puppeteer of poisoners on the other. Over the years, Catherine earned a fearsome reputation. Whispers of sorcery, poison, and murder followed her like a shadow. She was blamed for the infamous St. Bartholomew's Day massacre, where thousands of Protestants were slaughtered in 1572. Whether or not she orchestrated that bloodbath, the Black Queen became a symbol of cold-hearted power. She kept astrologers and alchemists in her court, always plotting to protect her children's throne. Death surrounded Catherine, sometimes by her design, sometimes by cruel fate. By the late 1580s, she had outlived her husband and several of her children, and France was drowning in violence and chaos. Little did Catherine know, the darkest chapter of her life was about to be written, not in blood, but in rot. It's the winter of 1588. France is split by civil war, and 69-year-old Catherine finds herself in a cold, drafty château in Valois. Despite her age, she's still a commanding presence until the illness strikes. In late December, amid political turmoil, Catherine is struck down by a sudden sickness. At first, it seems like a severe cold or a bout of pleurisy, a lung infection. She has a fever and a stabbing pain in her side. But this is no ordinary winter illness. Catherine's condition worsens rapidly, as if all the years of stress and sorrow are finally catching up to her. In the dim candlelight of her chamber, the once formidable queen lies bedridden. She's coughing and struggling to breathe. Some say she began coughing up foul-smelling phlegm, possibly streaked with blood. Her doctors apply poultices and potions, but nothing helps. Could this really be the end? Catherine, ever superstitious, might have remembered the warnings of her astrologers. Perhaps the stars had foretold catastrophe. Outside her room, France is on the brink. Her son, King Henry III, has just ordered the assassination of his rival, the Duke of Guise. The air is thick with tension and the smell of burning firewood. Inside, another smell is starting to spread, a sickly, sweet odor that clings to the air around the ailing queen. As days pass, a putrid scent begins to emanate from Catherine's bed. Servants whisper in fear. The aroma of rose oil and herbs, so carefully used to perfume the royal chambers, can no longer mask the odor of decay coming from their mistress. Catherine de Medici, famed for introducing perfumed gloves and soaps to France, is now surrounded by a smell so foul it makes onlookers gag. What is causing such a stench? In truth, Catherine's body is failing catastrophically. Infection ravages her from the inside. Fluids build up in her lungs and abdomen. Her flesh, quite literally, is beginning to rot before death. The Black Queen, who once doused herself in the finest fragrances, cannot escape the natural reality of decay. The smell is that of infection and impending death, a rotting, sweet and sour smell of flesh and blood that the people of the time know too well. It's the same odor that follows plague victims and battlefield corpses. For the courtiers who dare approach, it's as if death himself has entered the room. Some servants retch or cover their noses with handkerchiefs soaked in vinegar. Others quietly slip away, unable to bear the horror unfolding through their senses. Imagine the scene: the most powerful woman in France, lying in splendid sheets of silk, reeking like a decomposing corpse. It's a grotesque irony that no one can ignore. Catherine's illness soon turns into a nightmare of agony. Her fever climbs relentlessly, pushing her into delirium. She raves and mutters, perhaps calling out the names of her dead husband and children, or cursing her enemies. Then the convulsions begin. Without warning, the dying queen's body is gripped by violent seizures. Her back arches off the bed, her limbs jerk uncontrollably. Courtiers and physicians rush to hold her down, to prevent her from injuring herself. But the force of the convulsions is terrifying. This isn't a quick, peaceful passing. It's a drawn-out, hellish ordeal. For hours on end, wave after wave of convulsion racks Catherine's body. She gasps for air, choking as fluid rattles in her lungs. Her eyes roll back, and her mouth foams slightly from the strain. At times, she falls still, and those watching wonder if she's finally expired, only for her to spasm again with renewed intensity. Can you imagine the horror? A lady-in-waiting might be praying in the corner, peeking through her fingers as her queen thrashes as if possessed. The palace that once echoed with music and laughter is now filled with the sounds of suffering, the slap of body against bed, the queen's moans and shrieks, the frantic whispers of helpless attendants. Even the most loyal servants are trembling. Some flee the chamber in fear or disgust, unable to witness any more. The awful smell grows stronger with every passing hour of her torment. One courtier murmurs that the devil must be in the room. Others wonder if this is divine punishment for Catherine's sins, a final payment for the lives lost under her rule. January 5th, 1589. A gray, cold morning. Catherine de Medici's final moment arrives. After a night of unrelenting pain, the convulsions finally stop. Catherine is exhausted, barely conscious. Her face is ashen, lips cracked and blue. Each breath is a wet, shallow rattle. A few faithful souls remain at her bedside, perhaps a priest murmuring last rites, and one or two brave ladies fanning the rank air. Catherine's surviving son, King Henry III, might hover in the doorway, torn between duty and horror, or he may have kept his distance due to the stench and chaos. At just after mid-morning, Catherine de Medici lets out one last, rattling sigh and falls still. The room falls silent. After decades of dominating France, the Queen Mother is dead. For a moment, those around her hesitate, perhaps out of respect, or simply unsure what to do after such a harrowing vigil. The silence is broken by someone gagging. Even in death, the corpse's smell is overwhelming as her bowels release, and the rot truly sets in. It's over. Catherine's face, once so formidable, is now sunken and hollow. Her skin has taken on a pale, yellowish waxen hue. In the days before formaldehyde, a body could begin decomposing within hours, and Catherine's had already given everyone a preview. The queen who shaped the fate of nations has died in utter indignity. Soaked in sweat, blood, and filth, her chamber rank with death. It's a scene her enemies would have relished, and her supporters will prefer to forget. You'd think the death of a queen mother would prompt a grand state funeral. But Catherine de Medici's end came at perhaps the worst possible time. France was in turmoil. Paris, the traditional resting place of royalty, was held by Catherine's enemies. Her son, King Henry III, was himself on the run within months, fighting to hold on to his crown. In the immediate aftermath of Catherine's passing, there's no massive procession, no gilded coffin paraded through Paris. Instead, Catherine's body is hurriedly sealed in a lead-lined coffin to contain the smell and slow the decay. Legend has it that her remains smelled so awful that the royal staff had to bury her quickly in a nearby church chapel at Blois to prevent the stench from spreading. It's said that even her most loyal servants couldn't bear to be near her corpse for long. One contemporary report cruelly noted that she was given no more respect than a dead goat. Imagine, a queen who once commanded armies, now quietly tucked into an unmarked grave niche in a provincial chapel, almost like an embarrassment. There were no lavish monuments or public mourning period, at least not yet. It was as if her death was just another grim event in an already grim time. Catherine's death also marked the death of a dynasty. Within 8 months, her last surviving son, Henry III, was assassinated. The Valois line, which had ruled France for nearly 300 years, ended with Catherine's children. As Catherine's coffin lay in that chapel, unadorned, France moved on to a new king from a new dynasty, Henry of Navarre, becoming Henry IV. The woman who had fought all her life to secure her family's legacy could only watch from the afterlife, as everything she built crumbled overnight. It's a tragic irony. Catherine's life was defined by her fierce loyalty to her bloodline, yet barely anyone honored that bloodline once she was gone. Catherine de Medici's story didn't quite end with her last breath, and this only adds to the dark drama. For 20 years, her remains stayed in that modest grave at Blois. Eventually, when political tides calmed, her daughter, from an affair of Catherine's husband, and others, arranged for Catherine's body to be moved to the Basilica of Saint Denis, the rightful resting place of French royalty. One might think she would finally get the dignity in death that she was due. And indeed, for a while, Catherine's bones lay among kings and queens in a proper tomb. But fate had one more cruel twist in store. Fast forward to the French Revolution in 1793. Angry revolutionary mobs, filled with hatred for the old monarchy, descended upon the royal tombs of Saint Denis. In a frenzy of anti-royal fury, they smashed coffins and desecrated remains. The tomb of Catherine de Medici was no exception. Her bones, along with those of many other kings and queens, were ripped out and unceremoniously tossed into a mass grave pit. The queen who smelled of death had become just another pile of anonymous bones, mixed in the dirt, exposed to the elements and lime. It's a fate almost too dark to believe. The once mighty Catherine de Medici, who had built palaces and negotiated with popes, was reduced to nothing more than scattered remains in a pit, her identity literally lost among the masses. It wasn't until years later, after the revolution's fury had passed, that remnants of these royal bones were collected and reinterred in the basilica's crypt. Even so, the exact pieces of Catherine that survived are impossible to tell apart from the others. In death, she became truly equal to everyone else, a jumble of bones with no crown. This gruesome postscript to her life is a reminder that history can be as unforgiving as death itself. Catherine de Medici's life, and especially her death, serve as a chilling reminder of the fragility of power and the inevitability of fate. She lived as a queen among kings, feared by many, yet died in such horrifying agony that her very corpse became a source of terror. Her story teaches us that no amount of influence can shield one from mortality's dark grasp. In the end, we are all equal before death, a lesson that is as humbling as it is scary. Catherine's putrid end also shows how quickly one's legacy can turn to dust, or, in her case, to bones in a pit, if there is no one left to honor it. So, what can we take away from this macabre tale? For one, history isn't just dates and battles. It's filled with real people who lived, suffered, and died, sometimes in unspeakable ways. Learning about these raw, uncomfortable details can give us a new appreciation for the present. We can be thankful for modern medicine and for the fact that most of us won't have to experience the kind of end Catherine did. And perhaps Catherine's story encourages us to reflect on our own lives. How will we be remembered, and what legacy will we leave behind? Hopefully, one that doesn't reek of cruelty or regret. Thank you for joining us on this dark journey through time. If you found this story intriguing or positively spine-chilling, please hit the like button to let us know. Share your thoughts in the comments. Had you heard of Catherine de Medici's gruesome death before, or did this story surprise you? We'd love to hear your take. Don't forget to subscribe for more fascinating and haunting tales from history. We have plenty more unbelievable true stories coming up, so stay tuned. Until next time, remember that even the mightiest of us can fall. So be kind, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next video.